Fearless fundraisers, I'm Dawn Lego. It's time to buckle up for a new episode of Raise Nation Radio, the one and only podcast made to inspire fundraisers like you to continue making impact in our communities, building better tomorrows, and exchanging ideas. So whether you're a trailblazer or seasoned pro, you'll pick up the trends that transform your fundraising. Together, we'll dive into lively conversations, and we're going to chat with industry-leading fundraisers, thought leaders, and we're going to explore those hot button issues and innovative ideas. So stay with us for the next 30 minutes while we inspire you to embrace the future of fundraising. All right, let's get going. If you are new to Raise Nation Radio, welcome, welcome, welcome. We hope you're tuning in on your favorite podcast channel. We stream on 10 different channels and we are on demand at onecause.com. So follow us and tune in wherever it's convenient for you so that you could hear all of our thought leaders and fundraisers anywhere, anytime, any place. And if you've been with us before, thank you for being a fan. Thank you for making Raise Nation Radio so popular. We continue to give you great stories and fundraisers and thought leaders. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, you know how to reach me. We'd love to have you. But today, I am very pleased to welcome a special guest. We have Katelyn Brewer here with us on Raise Nation Radio. Katelyn is the president and CEO of a very special organization working in an area that's a little sensitive, but we're going to dive in deep to Darkness to Light. And Darkness to Light is also a 2023 grantee recipient in the One Cause Grants program. So just all around an honor to have this organization with us to talk about their mission, their impact, and everything they're doing. So a very warm welcome, Katelyn. Welcome to Raise Nation Radio. It's so great to have you here today.
Dawn, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, we really want to dive into everything that you're doing to impact our communities and talk about a very special and delicate mission. But first, I really would love our audience to get to know you a little bit better, other than just a title that I slapped out in the intro of this show. So if you would just share a little bit about your career and how you came to Darkness to Light and whatever you feel comfortable sharing personally.
Yeah, of course. I was just recently having fun with my personal email signature and describing myself, and I have decided that I am a joy seeker. I am an avid advocate for causes I believe in, and I am a dedicated auntie. Those are the things that make me who I am. But I
love that, by the way. Love it.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. I think I might steal a couple of those things.
Please do.
Very special.
I mean, being an aunt is probably one of the best things that I've ever done. I have grown up professionally in the nonprofit space. I used to do a lot of work in African development. I lived and worked in about 13 different countries over the course of 10 years. And I specifically lived in Johannesburg, where I met my wife, and lived there for a couple of years. And then we moved back to the States, and I transitioned from African development into, I did some veteran-oriented work and gave scholarships to kids whose parents had died in the line of duty, which was incredible. And then incredible work. And then I was recruited to join Darkness to Light. Admittedly, and I tell people this all the time, I knew pretty much as little as you could possibly know about what child sexual abuse prevention looked like, how it happened. But I did know a lot about fundraising. I knew a lot about organizational development and organizational change. And so it was an incredible opportunity. And I've now been here for 6.5 years.
Wow. What a resume. Oh my gosh. 13 countries.
Yeah. I miss it every day. It was an incredible amount of work. But I realized that there are so many Africans doing incredible things. And while I do believe that I helped and the organization helped marginally, I think that there are people in those countries who are more than capable of, doing the work that we were doing. And so that's why I stepped back.
Got it. Wow. Okay. Well, that sounds like a second Raise Nation Radio episode.
Yeah, there you go.
But we really want to talk about Darkness to Light because admittedly, I don't know that I know everything about the mission. I got a little behind the scenes look at having the opportunity to review your grant application for the One Cause Grants program, which we'll get to in just a moment. But I don't know that I know everything that I should, and perhaps our audience doesn't know. So can you talk a little bit about your mission and the very tender and delicate population that you serve? It's heartbreaking, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, of course. So we focus on child sexual abuse prevention, and we do that through building prevention-oriented communities at the individual level, at the community level, at the organization level, and at the influencer sort of policy maker level. And that sounds like a lot of jargon, but really, what matters is that prevention is possible, and it's possible through behavior change of good, honest, dedicated parents and caregivers and leaders in our communities. And so Darkness to Light is most well known for our flagship training, Stewards of Children. It's a 2.5-hour training that you can take either online, or you can have a facilitator in your community distribute that training for you. And it really helps you it brings you through 5 steps that help you recognize, prevent, and react responsibly to child sexual abuse suspicions or actual instances. And so with that, over the last 22, 23 years, we've built a network of facilitators in 50 states and 17 countries. And we have had more than 2 million people take our training.
Gosh.
I know, which is incredible. Yeah, so that's what we're most well known for. We also now are co-founders of a survivor-led movement called Keep Kids Safe. And that movement is a group of survivors and national organizations that are advocating for comprehensive legislation for prevention, healing, and justice from child sexual abuse. And so we wrote a blueprint. If you're ever bored before you go to sleep and you want to read 40 pages of what you think we should be doing at the federal level, it's on our website, keep-kids-safe.org. And yeah, it's an incredible amount of work to be navigating the halls of Capitol Hill, advocating on behalf of our nation's children.
And you're kind of directing and managing all of this, the programming, the mission, keeping it go. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. I will take that 40-page document and read it. Very
your
interesting.
Highlighter. There's lots to know.
Okay, highlighter ready. I'm on it. So, what are some of your? I would imagine education teachers, guidance counselors, coaches. They've gone through your training. Who else is your training good for? That's just the first thing that came top of my mind.
Yeah, daycare providers.
God, daycare providers. That just a little sadness came along with that.
I know.
That's really young. Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah, daycare providers, camp counselors, youth serving organization leaders like Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, the Jewish organizations across the country that have youth serving organizations. Who else? Doctors, nurses, dental hygienists, bus drivers, janitors. We have had, and I mentioned each one of those because we have trained someone in that profession, and they have come back and reported to us that they have made one or more disclosures.
I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah, report.
Oh my gosh.
Janitors in particular, I mean, they see so much that happens in the buildings that they, service, and they're an incredibly important part of the ecosystem of keeping kids safe.
Wow. Yeah. Talk about a mic drop. Like I have to just stop for a moment and think, but they're really heroes, to go through the training. Are they self-motivated, or is it typically part of a school district, or both? Right. I would imagine
it's both.
Yeah.
It's both. And, part of what our education gives is the tools to be able to try and have the self-efficacy to actually make the report. Right. Because I think, there's so many social stigmas that we as adults have to get over in order to be able to act on behalf of children. I mean, the main question we get, for instance, is, well, what if I suspect something is happening, but it's actually not happening? I could ruin this person's life. And
what if I'm wrong? Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And our response to that is, listen, there's a gut feeling for a reason. If you think someone is breaking boundaries and rules that have been established, and they do so repeatedly, you're normally, something is happening. And the reality is, what if you're right?
Yeah.
What if something is happening? You have the opportunity to be able to save a child or children's lives. And, it's not up to you truly to make sure that it's actually happening. There are hundreds of thousands of people across this country and communities all over who are professionals at this, who are able to figure out whether or not it's actually happening, but they depend on people like you to make a report, to bring that child in, to have a forensic interview and see whether something is happening.
If you see something, say something,
exactly.
Right? I mean,
exactly.
And arm yourself with the training and the education, thanks to Darkness to Light, to maybe help make those calls.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It's not just anecdotally, it's with something behind it. And if you got that gut feeling, I had no idea, but now I'm getting there. Now there's a lot of myths, right? There's definitely some myths about child sexual abuse. Let's be a myth buster here for just a little bit. Can you take us through some of those myths so that, our audience is just a little bit more informed?
Yeah, sure. So one of the biggest myths, particularly for millennials and older, if you will, is that stranger danger is a thing. And listen, I am not here to say that there aren't obviously things that happen in connection with strangers, but it is statistically 10% of the time. 10.
So what's the 90%?
90% of the time, a child is abused by someone that the family knows and trusts.
Okay.
30% of that 90 is a close family member, and 60% is a person in the community that is, a trusted community member. And so that's the next myth I'd like to talk about, which is, pillars of the community do not abuse children. In fact, it's unfortunately quite the opposite. And if you follow any of the news media in the past, 10 years, you will see that it is priests and rabbis and politicians and, ministers. It's community members that strategically place themselves in a position of power to have access to children, and they gain the trust over time. And so it's important that we know that we combine those two things, right? Like people who are abusing children benefit from our misunderstanding that it's stranger danger. They benefit from the fact that most people don't know that it's somebody that the family knows and trusts. They benefit from the fact that people think that it's, an older guy with a mustache who drives a white van, when in fact
and wears a black coat, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A trench coat or something. In fact, it's not. It's the person sitting in the church pew with you. It's the person picking your kid
right
up
next to you.
School. It's the person coaching your child. And, and I don't say any of this to make people walk around in fear, right? That is not our recommendation at all. Fear-based decision-making is poor decision-making. What I do recommend is just educating yourself to minimize opportunities for individuals to have one-on-one alone time with your kids. Make sure that what they're doing is always in a group setting. The rule of 3 is incredibly important in the life of the child for a multitude of reasons. I would also offer that we have seen an increase in peer-on-peer abuse in the last 10 years. And that has to do, although there aren't a ton of studies out there with direct causal correlation, most professionals are associating that with increased access to pornographic materials. And so they are crimes of curiosity. They're not necessarily crimes of violent intent. And so it's just important for parents to begin to have conversations with their children about what they're viewing online, how they might feel about some of the things that they've seen online. And because it is part of prevention. And so I think, I'm down a rabbit hole now, but I really do believe that building that relationship with your child from a very early age, that it's safe to talk to you about your body and body boundaries and sexuality and, that it's okay to be curious, but you have to be curious and
in a safe way.
In a safe way. Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, you just put a lot together because now I understand the concern about reporting because there is that question, what if I'm wrong? But then there's also that question, what if I'm wrong about a person in the community that's loved and adored, right? Like that's a lot of pressure. So thinking that it was stranger danger, and now understanding that it's not makes the weight of the reporting all that much more difficult. So I kind of get that now. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Light bulb moment. What about prevalence though? Because you did mention that, you're not necessarily trying to strike, fear in everyone at the, not trying to strike a chord right now, but is prevalence so rampant that we should all have this training and should all be aware and should have like a little set of rules about, hey, my daughter is in college right now and I still don't go home alone. Make sure you're going home with somebody, buddy system, all of that. So what are we looking at with prevalence? Can you comment on that?
Dawn, it's not good.
I was afraid you were going to say that.
Conservative estimates put it at 1 in 10, but there are recent studies that are saying, in Oregon in particular, that are saying it could be closer to 1 in 3. And I do want people to hear the 1 in 10 number is a number based on studies that were done about actual physical touch. Whereas the 1 in 3 number includes things like, were you exposed to pornographic materials before you wanted to be? Did someone show them to you? It's not necessarily it's more than just the physical act of being sexually abused. There are other aspects to that. Which
is just as harmful. Really.
Correct. Yes, very much so.
So really, I think, gosh, it makes sense to me that there's not one person in the world that wouldn't benefit from this training. Just the awareness, the education, and the training, because who is not encountering, the youth in some fashion? Who doesn't want to protect the next generation of our country, of the world? So that's a lot of pressure then for Darkness to Light to let's educate everybody. I'm just expanding
all of us.
Yeah.
We start off our training, Dawn, by asking people, okay, sit down right now. 1 in 10 children might be victims. Write down the names of 10 children that you know. And think about those 10 children and, what you would do to keep all 10 of them safe and to bust that statistic that one of those children will be sexually abused before their 18th birthday. And when you personalize something like that, the magnitude of it can be overwhelming. But when you then follow that up with tools and tricks and, systems to be able to help kids and behaviors that you can take on to help kids, it makes it a lot more reasonable to sort of navigate the world that we live in.
Yeah. Wow. Well, so we've definitely established, at least you've established for me, the purpose of darkness and light and the need for the mission. So how do you get there? What do you need? How can I have I'm going to rattle off a bunch of questions, pick and choose what you want to answer, how you want to, but I just I have to fire them off. How do you get there? It sounds like fundraising is a big part of that to keep your programming and your training going. How do you create awareness and what do you need and how do people get involved? So I just fired a lot off at you. So take it whenever direction you'd like to.
Okay. Well, before I get to the fundraising, because that is clearly a pinnacle of success for us, I do want to tell people that there are non-cash ways that you can help. One of them is asking your school districts, your daycares, your youth serving organizations.
Get right on that, right? People should be writing emails right now. Yep.
What are your child sexual abuse prevention policies here? When I leave my child here, are your staff trained? Have you had
because hey, I don't want to be a statistic. Right?
Exactly.
Let's get in front of this. Yeah.
But in terms of, the fundraising component, Dawn, it's, listen, I started this off by saying that I worked in African development. I used to raise tens of millions of dollars for projects across the continent. And if I can raise a couple $1 million a year for my organization, it is it's a successful year. This is a deeply, deeply underfunded topic. It is not something that people pick up their checkbooks or credit cards and donate to in the same way that they do with other causes, other very worthy causes, by the way, that I also donate to.
Right.
But I didn't realize how underfunded it was and how, we've just established how deeply pervasive it is in society. And so we need real scalable solutions. And organizations like Darkness to Light in our space have real innovative scalable solutions, but we can only do that if we have the resources to be able to scale at the rate that we need to. And so, that's why we were so blown away by One Cause, having us as a grantee, because this peer-to-peer fundraising and being able to raise based on events that people, like the New York City Marathon and things like that, for us, it does two things. It brings cash to the table so we can actually accomplish it, but it also demonstrates that people are willing to associate their name, their effort, and their charitable donations to a cause like child sexual abuse prevention without shame, without fear. And so when companies like One Cause choose this topic, you're putting your flag in the sand and saying, this issue deserves attention too. And so cheers to you all, because I know you received an insane amount of grants with very worthy organizations.
Yes.
But we're so grateful, truly.
Oh, and so for our audience who may not know, One Cause does have an annual grant program. It opens in the summer each year for the following year. You applied for the 2023 grant program, which grants you software of your choice for a 24-month subscription. And you're right, this was a record year for us. Our grant applications grew 400%. And it was very hard for the evaluation committee to narrow it down because they were all worthy courses. We have 3 areas of focus and you fit into one of them. So you met the criteria, the baseline criteria. And then we had to go into the story, the mission, the impact, and how you could use the grant to grow the mission. And after going to, semifinals to finals to interviews, it was grueling, and the deliberation behind the scenes wasn't easy for the committee. But yes, you were selected out of all of that, right? And so I think that's definitely congratulations, truly.
Yeah, thank you.
And we're proud of you and the work that you're doing. And, I think we just established that there's not one person in the world that shouldn't have this kind of training.
100%.
And I hope people are writing emails to their school districts, to their coaches, to their girls club and Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and everything in between, because why not? Why do we want to be on the other side of it? We want to try to prevent it. And, I want to see all the success in the world. So if people wanted to get involved, we've established a couple things. One, they can fundraise, right? One Cause is going to help you do that for the next 2 years through the grant program. So go darkness to light, hit the ground running, use and abuse the software, and they can donate, they can fundraise. I'm sure there's multiple ways, to fundraise, and we can find that on the website, right? Is it, do you use the number 2? Is it d2l.org, or what is the website?
Yes, it's d2l.org.
Great. Well, we'll get that on the show notes, so nobody has to remember that, and we'll have that all there. We also mentioned take action, be preventative in thinking, write some notes right now, make sure that everybody's protected. But how else can people get involved working with Darkness to Light? And what do you need right now?
Yeah, listen, we are relaunching our flagship training, and we are going to be training a whole new batch of facilitators across the country. And so we are really excited about rolling that out in communities who have never experienced prevention training before. And so if you're interested, please go to thenewstewards.org and look over the training, why it's different than the one we have now. There's some dates available in May and beyond for new facilitators who have never engaged with us before. And we'd love to have you in our community, in your community, rolling out prevention efforts.
Okay. So that's a great way to get involved. If you can't make that financial commitment. So it sounds like there's lots of opportunities, and we can find it all, on the website. Do you have any success stories? Can you talk about the impact or anything that comes to your mind about someone you've trained or children that you might have helped or prevented from, is there any story that you can share with us to bring this all together, make it real?
There are
plenty.
I would love to be able to share them all. I'll talk about one on a podcast. Actually, a few years ago, I was invited to be on a podcast, and the woman who ran the podcast was, she talked a lot about healthy lifestyles and eating and meditation and, things like that. And she lives in the same city I do. And I just sort of heard about our work through the grapevine. And so I go on and I do, the same talk about what we do and why it's important. And, I do these things and I never know. I don't hear back like, this is a really, it changed my life, except I love the way she interviewed me so much. It felt like one big hug, kind of like you today, Dawn, just giving me a hug through the screen. And so I began listening to her podcast regularly. And at the end of her season, she wrapped up, and just said, this season's most important episode was with Katelyn Brewer, Darkness to Light. I received this letter from a listener who realized that she was a survivor of child sexual abuse, and that there were options for her, and that she wasn't alone, and that she spoke to her sister about it, and her sister disclosed to her that she was a survivor too. And now the two of them are going to therapy and sharing their healing journey together. And they had never told anyone in their entire lives.
Until they heard you speak.
When I tell you, I had to pull over on the side of the road and just let it out. And I was just,
because
I'm so sorry that they had that experience and that, they've been carrying that around alone. But part of this prevention is opening up the doors for survivors to be able to have conversations about what happened to them as well. And not in the, in the darkness and the shame and the silence. And after a couple drinks at the dinner table, that's the only time it ever gets mentioned. Like out in public, proud of the fact that they have overcome incredible, trauma in their lives, and they are still amazing people.
Fierce.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So now that segues to you have crisis helpline as well. Yes. So perhaps we're reaching out to somebody right now and we don't know it, Katelyn. So we would be remiss to not talk about that. Let's talk about how people can get help. Let's talk about your text line. People can actually text in, right? You want people to be as comfortable, and whatever that means. It's a phone call, it's an email. So let's talk about 866 for light. Or text light to 741-741. Did I get those right? And can you talk about the programs there?
Both of those are free resources. We work with organizations that manage both that hotline, like John said, that's 1-866-4-LIGHT. And another organization runs our text crisis hotline, which is text the word light to 741-741.
Text the word light. Okay, we'll get all that in the show notes too, if anybody's listening. So just go into the show notes. Now, you have lots of sponsors too. If there's too many, then let's not mention any of them because I don't want to leave anybody out. But are there a couple that you want to shout out just off the top of your head? But I don't want you to, miss anybody. Yeah. So if you want to skip that, I understand as well.
No, gosh, there's so many. I mean, I'd love to give a shout out to my board. I think my board, it's a rarity, I think, that a CEO is friends as well as professional colleagues with, board members. And they just are so supportive and so connected to this mission and our success. And so, and each of them donate, time, talent, and treasure constantly. I would love to talk about the Oak Foundation, which is a foundation out of Switzerland that has really sort of spearheaded a lot of our, equity, diversity, and inclusion work, as well as a number of efforts with this new Keep Kids Safe movement, and the belief that, children deserve a federal law that helps them, stay safe in their communities. And I just think, we have past donors who have given to us and have, that have really changed the game for 23 years. They believed, they believed in a topic that deserved more attention than it gets.
Wow. Well, you've built a lovely community to support something that really needs to be everywhere in our world. And congratulations on that. I'll shout out your board as well, because, they're behind the scenes sometimes and don't always get the recognition and credit. And the Oak Foundation, big shout out to them as well. Yeah. So let's move over to the grant and our relationship, your partnership with One Cause. Yeah. I think we touched on that already, but what did that mean for you? You were a top runner for sure. You went right into the semifinals, slipped right into the finals, the interviews, boom. And then that phone call, was made. I think we did it on Zoom because, we didn't want to just do it via email. But what did that mean for you and your team?
My goodness. Well, I'll tell you, our senior director of marketing and communications, Tanya Gill, this is her favorite kind of fundraising. She just, there are certain people in the world who love to fundraise and ask for money and get people excited in community events. And so when we saw this grant, she was just, it's all she talked about. And so when we started to realize that we were moving forward in the process, she just kept sending me messages saying, I'm getting more and more excited. I can't wait to build out, an entire fundraising strategy around peer-to-peer fundraising. And so, honestly, Dawn, what it means to us is that we get to expand a side of fundraising that we just have not been able to sort of crack for the last however many years. And that's an incredible asset to an organization as small as ours, but working sort of at the scale we're working, with everyday people in communities who are passionate, about what we do.
Oh, that's good to hear. And we're so happy and proud and going to stay connected with you.
Of course.
Your customer success manager, Ryan Love, when you were onboarded, has already sent me a message, and, I'm gonna roll out the red carpet for them. I'm like, you go, Ryan. So shout out to your customer success manager. You did end up selecting our peer-to-peer product, complete with service, award-winning service and support. And we layered on some one-to-one consultation with that. And we're really wanting to help you get to the next level, and hopefully you take every advantage of the grant program, to do that. So I think with that said, we're going to have to invite you back to another episode to see how it all plays out.
That sounds great.
Yeah. So that'll be good. And hopefully we can add some more things that we talked about earlier today. So promise you'll join us and keep the mission going, and let us know how you're doing and what you need and how the grant is playing out for you. We'd love to have. Oh, good. Very good. So it was such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for enlightening me. I didn't know. I'm planning to send some emails now. Actually, I'm meeting with my son's case study manager tomorrow. I think I'll drop a little, hey, by the way.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
We'll make sure that we do that, but please keep in touch. We're going to put a bunch of show notes in how to get in touch with Darkness to Light, how to get in touch with Katelyn on LinkedIn, and all the information that you need to learn more about this wonderful organization, what they're doing, how you can support, how you can get involved, and how you can just educate yourself, because today was very enlightening for me. So that's good stuff. Please say hello to your team for me. I feel like I got to know them in the whole process. They were just wonderful to work with. And I want them to, just get all my love. So we'll have to invite you back. But for now, and to all of our fearless fundraisers, that's about all we have time for today. I'm sorry, but thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's Raise Nation topic and your daily dose of fundraising inspiration. Tune in for a new episode release every Thursday at 12:30 p.m. That's Thursdays, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And in the meantime, listen to all the episodes on Raise Nation Radio. I think there's 75 of them. Follow the channel that you like best so you can get notifications about our new guests. All of you fundraisers are doing amazing things. You just heard about it. You're building better tomorrows for our communities. Your stories are awe-inspiring, and you don't want to miss a single episode of Raise Nation Radio to hear all about it. I would like to thank our sponsor, One Cause, for making this episode possible. One Cause is driving the future of fundraising with easy-to-use software solutions that help nonprofits connect with donors. Check it out at onecause.com and visit the resource tab on the homepage for a broad catalog of ebooks and vlogs and blogs and videos and podcasts and webinars that hopefully you'll find very helpful. A huge shout out and thanks to my guest, Katelyn Brewer from Darkness to Light, for taking time out of her very busy day running advocacy and programming and impact and everything else to make a very important mission come together. Katelyn, thank you so much for your time. Any last words of inspiration for our audience?
I just want to say to all the survivors listening today, whether you've shared your experience with someone or not, we believe you, and we're here when you're ready.
Wow. And there's right on the website a way to talk to somebody if you need to. And we'll get that too in the show notes. Katelyn, thank you. You're so inspiring. Good luck to you. We're going to check in with you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, Fearless Fundraisers, that's a wrap. Until next time, I'm Dawn Lego. This is Raise Nation Radio. You stay fearless out there.